On April 15th, 1951, the Lady of All Nations gives a powerful message about the connection between a prayer which she reveals and a new dogma pronounced by the Holy Father regarding Our Lady with a world impact. Welcome to MaryCast. This is Dr. Mark Miravalle, Professor of Theology and Mariology at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. We are going through a series of messages of the Lady of All Nations. We're talking about the theology of these messages, and we're talking about their impact on the current petition for a fifth and final Marian Dogma of Our Lady as the Coredemptrix, Mediatrix of all graces and advocate. And in this segment, I want to focus in on this April 15, 1951 message, just to situate you with the surrounding elements of where this message comes from and its context. She has already talked about the call of a prayer that would have to prepare the way for a dogma. She's then talked a little bit more on about the nature of what the prayer would be. And now she's going to come on April 15th to explain in greater detail the symbolism of the prayer and the power of the prayer, as well as have Ida herself experience a type of mystical union of suffering with Our Lady. Let's go to that April 15th, 1951 message, and I'll follow it with some comments. Ida records it as follows. I see that great bright light again. It is as though the Lady came forward very slowly out of that light, and now she stands clearly before me. The Lady says nothing as yet. She only looks and smiles at me. Thus she remains for a while, and then she says, Child, watch carefully once more. The Lady is pointing to the girdle round her waist, for this is what she wants me to look at. Then the Lady speaks again. You have reported everything correctly. You are on the right path. Only have another good look at this cloth. And then it would seem that the Lady removes the girdle from her waist to show me how she puts it on. She wraps it around herself once and then a second time. She tucks in the end of the two-layered cloth on her side, leaving one small end hanging down. Mark well what this means, says the Lady. This represents the loincloth of the Son. For I stand as the Lady in front of the cross of the Son. This picture will precede, and the Lady repeats, will precede a dogma, a new dogma. Now I will explain it to you, so listen carefully. The Son came into the world as the Redeemer of men, and the work of redemption was the cross, with all its suffering both of body and spirit. Then the Lady moves away from the cross, and I again stand before that large cross. Once again those dreadful pains seize hold of me more violently than ever before. They seem to last for a long time until the Lady comes and stands in front of the cross as if in a haze. I see the Lady, as it were, wreathing, and then she begins to weep. Indescribable sorrow is written over her whole face, and the tears run down her cheeks. I'm going to stop here in the message and give a little explanation for those unfamiliar with the rest of the messages. Of course, Our Lady appears in front of the cross, and she's made this explanation about the loincloth, that the girdle which is wrapped around her is representing the loincloth of Jesus. Then she talks about the dogma, how this picture will precede a new dogma. Well, it's going to be a dogma concerning this very role, her role as a co-redemptrix, her role as someone suffering uniquely and objectively, historically, with Jesus Christ for the salvation of the entire world. When she's talking about the cross and Our Lady is standing there, and Ida is kind of in that line of vision. So there's the cross, there's Our Lady, and then there's Ida. What then takes place is that Our Lady steps aside from the cross. And so then Ida is directly in front of the cross, and she is seized with tremendous pain. And this is what's going to happen, and I'm going to describe this. She, of course, will describe it here as we read through it. But we first note, and when I quote Ida's words here, I see the Lady, as it were, wreathing, and then she begins to weep. Indescribable sorrow is written over her whole face, and the tears run down her cheeks. So what happens is when Our Lady comes back in front of the cross, and there are visible signs of suffering on her face, she is obviously giving a revelation of the fact that she is suffering, pain on her face, and then crying tears. Now this is a powerful revelation of the truth that Our Lady mystically suffers while and as long as her children suffer. Yes, Our Lady is assumed into heaven. Yes, Our Lady is crowned in heaven as Queen of Heaven and Earth. But insofar she's still mother of the mystical body of Jesus, and the mystical body of Jesus suffers here, that Our Lady continues to suffer in a mystical way because of the suffering of her children. And doesn't this make kind of common sense understanding for all mothers? Imagine a mother who would be at peace and completely free from pain in the presence of her suffering child. It can't happen that way. Part of the love of motherhood, part of the vulnerability of the love of a mother's heart is if the child is suffering, she is suffering. And so this is also true about our Blessed Mother. Now, it then goes on, and we're going to see Ida experience this in a powerful way as well. Quote, "Then suddenly the lady says, 'Child,' and now she seems to transmit that suffering to me. First of all, a spiritual lassitude comes over me, which I feel very keenly. Then I experience the same pains as before, yet not so vehemently as the first time. Suddenly I seem to collapse, and I say to the lady, I can bear it no longer. It continues for another moment, and then all is over. Once again, the lady shows herself clearly in front of the cross and says, 'Listen well, and be sure to grasp what I am going to explain to you. But first I repeat, the Son came into the world as the Redeemer of mankind. The work of redemption was the cross. He was sent by the Father. Now, however, the Father and the Son want to send the lady throughout the whole world. In the past, too, she went before the Son and followed him. For this reason, I am now standing on the world, on the globe. The cross stands fixed firmly, implanted in it. Now the lady comes to stand in front of it as the Son's mother, who with him has accomplished this work of redemption. This picture speaks clearly, and now is the time to bring it into the world, for the world is once more in need of the cross. The lady, however, really stands here as the co-redemptrix and advocate. About this, much controversy will arise. The Church Rome, however, should not be afraid to take up the struggle. It can only make the Church stronger and more powerful. This is what I say to the theologians. Further, I say to them, give this matter your serious attention. Once again I say, the Son always chooses the humble and lowly for his work. Child, I hope you have understood this properly and can silence all objections. Now I speak to you in particular. Make sure my message is spread promptly. So, a profound summary of Our Lady's role in co-redemption, and we're going to see it just gets better, it just gets deeper, it just gets more sublime on how Our Lady was chosen to be with Jesus in the work of the redemption. And so that's why the picture, the image of the Lady of all nations is a pictorial of the role of the doctrine, that indeed she uniquely suffers with and under Jesus for the redemption of the world, that this image of the Lady of all nations shows her at the foot of the cross, and that she continues mystically suffering for us. That's another reason why you and I are called to really work for this proclamation of the dogma, because we want to see that with the proclamation will be a great release of grace and a great mitigation of suffering for Our Lady and for us. This is Dr. Mark Miravalle at MaryCast. Thanks for being with us. God bless.